Hi everyone, I'm Sharlene from So Dressmaking, and today I'm going to share with you how I put in my invisible zips. So if you're watching this, thank you for subscribing to my Ko-fi channel. It means so much to me. I am also going to have a printable, which I'm working on at the minute, which you can print out and then keep in a folder or in your sewing space or something, going through all the steps that I have used today to do this, or the steps that I use to put in my invisible zip. So there's a feature on most sewing machines that will make this so much easier, and yeah, it's how I get my zips. It allows you to get your thread and your stitch line right in close to the teeth of the zip that we fold, without having to do a whole lot of work. I personally don't like using an invisible zip foot. I think I'll pop a wee picture in so you can see what I'm talking about, but you can't really see where the needle and thread are going into in the zip, and there's more chance of the thread catching on one of the teeth, which then means that you can't actually open or close it. So I have used an invisible zip foot before, and I just don't find the results to be as accurate every time. So we will get started. So the feature that I am talking about on your machine, if you can adjust the width of your zigzag stitch, you should be able to do this. Now if you have any questions about it at all, please do feel free to message me and I can help you if you show me a picture of your machine. So the feature that I am talking about on your sewing machine will be if you can adjust the width of your zigzag stitch, then you should be able to do this by adjusting those settings. So for me with this machine, I do have the setting where I can, so you may be seeing there the needle shifted over to the left, and this is my zigzag width button. So if you just watch the needle here, as I change this, the needle does move across right to the other side. So by doing this, you can, when you have your zip in, all you have to do is pull the teeth out a wee bit and the needle will come right into this wee groove here if you have it set at the right setting. I have found on most machines, so that my machine is set to 7. Most machines, if you go from 5 one side to 5 the other, it's around 3.5 is where the ideal setting is. But again, if you aren't sure, just send me a message and I can help you with the settings on your own machine. So I'm going to get this set up now with my invisible zip foot, or my zipper foot, and I'm placing it with the, so that I will have the zip here on this side. So first thing that you want to check before you put it in is where your zip stops. So I know that my zip is coming right up to the top of this wee plastic mark here on the teeth, so the wee zipper stop. So this is where I want the top of my fabric, or the top of the zip, to end on the fabric. So have your zip open on the right side. So my and that's it here. So my 2 seams are here. If you lay your zip in the middle where it will go, and then just flip it over, because this is the way the seam is then going to fold in. So just, if you get confused with what way, because then sometimes I do still get them twisted round the wrong way. So this is the side here. Whenever it's turned around and sewn in place, then it's gonna look like that. So this one here, I'm going to So that is where the top of my zip will be. So I'm going to pin that in place. So attaching the first side is always going to be a lot easier than the second. Then the other tip I have is, if you can, depending on what you're sewing, I always try to get a zip that is about an inch longer than what I need. It means that you don't have to sew right down to here where the zipper pull is going to get in the way. You can stop sewing about here, and it means then when you're sewing your sides, or you're finishing off the rest of the seam below, you can just pull that up out of the way. So if your zip is an inch longer than what you actually need, you will be able to do that. So I'm just going to adjust my camera here and then sew this first one in place. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually baste this in place first. So put my stitch right up to the top. It doesn't matter so much where your needle is for this first stage, but you always want to baste your zip in place first before you actually start to sew it. So I will do that now. So you could see there that my zip was placed right up against the side of the zipper fit, but it's still, there's quite a bit there that you'll be able to see on the other side. So what I'm going to do is move my stitch over to where I need it. So to know if you've got it in the right place here, first of all, the reason I baste this in place first is if you have pins and you start pulling this out of the way, the whole zip starts to move over and you're not going to get it as accurate. The seam allowance I'm doing here is 1 centimeter. If your seam allowance is bigger, either trim it down so that you're working with 1 centimeter, because generally that's what the tape width is that you're going to get, or mark where you want the edge of the tape to be on your garment with chalk or something, and then you will get the right seam allowance. So once it's basted in place, it's not going to shift about. So you pull the teeth out of the way, and just before you do start sewing, just move the needle down into the fabric to see. You can see how close that is there. Just move it down in so that you can see just how close it is. If you're going to catch you don't want the zip to go across here and catch the teeth, and you also don't want it to be too far away. So I'm quite happy with where that is positioned now. So I'm going to go ahead and sew it. So as you're doing this, you want to have just gently pull the tape out of the way so that you can see right into that groove. When you're pulling that, you can see that the fabric is moving to the side, but because the zip is basted in place, it's not going to budge. And I have stopped just before the end of the pull there. So if we zip this up, you can see, oh, wrong place. So you can see there, this is where my zip, the teeth are in there, and that is pretty close to that line. So you'll know on the first side, if you can see, oh, focus. If you can see your teeth here, if you can see more of this tape, then you'll know that you need to go over it again, and you can just re-sew it, and just sew it really as many times as you need to to make sure that you've got it right and close there. So you can see that's what it looks like. This is my basting stitch, and when you pull that over to the side there, you can see my row of stitching on the inside. So next thing we need to do, close the zip, and with it closed and facing over to this side, you want to mark this point here on the tape to make sure that you're matching it up with this seam. So there's a few different ways that you can do this. You can use, here we go, just a wee pair of embroidery snips, and just do a snip into the tape. That isn't going to fray too much or anything. Or you can use chalk pencil, or chalk pen, any sort of, or you can put a wee pin in it there so that you know where to mark it on the other side. So then, flip your zip back over with your other side of the garment, then match your, so that's your wee notch there that we made, and just match that up, and that's where you want to put your first pin to make sure that it is all going to be the other side. So first pin is in there, those we can see there, that's all matching up. So same thing on this side. I'm going to open the zip now and baste it in place, and then we will check to make sure that it is all still in line. You can move your zipper foot over to the other side and sew it from this side if you want, so you're sewing from top to bottom. I'm just going to sew it from bottom to top for the basting stitch anyway. Okay, so I actually think when I sew that in place, I know it's not far out there, but it's enough. So I'm going to baste this in place again. The thing with checking this when you're basting it is that obviously the basting stitches are so much easier to come out using my trusty seam fix. Here we go. This is, you can get this in my Amazon storefront. It's the best thing ever. It's a really sharp unpicker to start with. The wee blade in there is brilliant, and let's see, the wee rubber at the end then is great to get rid of any of these wee loose threads that get caught, so helps. Here we are. Sometimes you can get lucky and the whole thing just rips out in one go. So we will try this again. So what I might actually do this time is I'm going to pin across here where that seam should be lining up, and hopefully that'll stop it from moving. Okay, Okay, so let's see if this is any better this time. Yeah, a lot better this time. So now I am going to stitch this in place. And I'm gonna pop a pin in here again to make sure this doesn't move. And there we go. Now it is a smidge out, but I don't think anyone would notice that. I think once it's pressed in place too, it'll probably sit a lot better. Yeah. So then next step is to finish the top facing and then sew up the rest of the seam. So do all this again with the zipper foot on. And for this one, the bottom, I'm gonna swap my zipper foot to the other side and just put it back in the normal needle position. So, and take out, there's a few wee basting stitches at the bottom here. Yeah. So okay, so what you want to do here, you're trying to get your stitching to line up with where the zipper stops. The stitching stops as closely as possible. You'll never get it right up to that point. So the reason we leave this end part of the zip free as well is it means you can pull it out of the way here. And then I'll go by here. Okay, so then when that is all pressed, you can see better from the side, that is going to be pretty clean finish there. I have it pretty well lined up, so you can see from here, that's where my seam is. There's going to be this tiny little gap here. You can try and get it closer, or if you think that that's going to, if there's too much of a gap here, you can just do a few wee stitches to close it by hand. And then for the top, so what I like to do is fold this bit, either fold it down out of the way, or you can actually trim it down and fold your facing. So fold your facing down over the outside, and I'm just going to sew this bit here and then back over. And then when you fold that around, I will snip that wee bit off there. You don't want to snip too much off because it will then poke out here at the top. And again, good press, and that'll be that at the top there. And same here. I'm just gonna snip a wee bit off that first. So then from the inside, this is a nice clean finish at the top. Obviously you would have your facing finished off, whatever way it is you need it finished. And that is it from the outside. I need to snip a wee bit more in there. And that's us at the top. Obviously now, if you were doing this with an actual garment, I'm using a darker zip so that you can see the contrast of the lighter coloured threads, but if you pull that really, really tight, you can see a wee bit of the zip. But if you were wearing it normally, you're not going to see any of that. Obviously with a zip the right colour, you're not going to see anything at all. And yeah, so those are my top tips for sewing an invisible zip. So that is my invisible zip tutorial. As I say, there will be a downloadable sheet as well, like a guide with all the tips and things that I have in it as well. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this, and thank you again for subscribing to my monthly Ko-fi page. I will have loads more content coming up for you. If there's anything at all that you do struggle with, if there's anything you want me to cover, please just drop me a wee message and I will definitely look at putting something together for that. And yeah, I'm really happy with how my zip has turned out, and yeah, I hope you are all having a lovely day, and I will chat to you all soon. Bye.